I don't know that I have the answer to that, other than I really hope that if you're a fascia-informed therapist, that you're open to an evolution of our understanding. And I think when we know more, we can get more creative. We can get more creative with how we design interventions, with how we educate our clients. Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist podcast, designed for health and wellness practitioners interested in fascia science. I'm Amy Mayer, occupational therapist, practice owner, author, and educator with more than 30 years of experience using fascia techniques across many settings. Each episode brings practical insights and thought-provoking conversations to help you expand your skills and better serve your clients. Let's get started. Hi, this is Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. And today we're talking about definitions of fascia and focusing in on an article that is a 2024 article that I came across a while ago and been wanting to share with you. So we'll get to that here shortly. But first of all, why do we even need definitions? And I think there's more and more practitioners, clinicians, maybe even charlatans out there talking about fascia because people are looking for it. And I can tell you, based on the traffic to my mayerwellness.com website, more and more people are looking for fascia. They're searching all kinds of different things. And when I can look and see what pages people are going to and what they're looking for, it's really interesting. So there's a lot of people out there looking to what's going on with fascia and how can it help me, from everything to how I look, to how I feel, to my health. So it's important for us as clinicians to have definitions that we can turn to when we're trying to explain to our clients what it is, why it matters to them, how it affects their pain, how it affects their health, how it affects their movement. And it also can shape how we think. And when we're thinking about fascia and the definitions, that helps us look further, dive deeper into things, to think about how it might influence or affect how we shape our interventions. And then, of course, definitions also are important for those who are researching fascia and doing fascia-related research. So I think what I have definitely learned over the past many years, decades, that it's not a fixed thing that we're dealing with. It's a relatively new science. The science diving deep into really understanding what this tissue is, what this system is, and it hasn't been fixed. It's not a fixed concept. It's something that is evolving. So the article that I want to share is, the first author is Bordoni, and the title of the article is called Fascia Nomenclature Update 2024, and it was in the journal Cureus, Cureus, and as I mentioned, it was published in 2024. And I can put the DOI link in the show notes if you like. I don't know why I wasn't doing that before, but anyway, I'm going to read you the abstract to sort of get us started with the foundation of what we're going to talk about. So the abstract to this article: the fascial system is the focus of multiple scientific disciplines, and its nomenclature is debated. What tissue should fall under the definition of fascia? ? Considering university anatomy books, where what is considered connective tissue is described as a fact, and through the science of embryology, which allows us to identify the origin of different body tissues, the article reviews and updates fascial nomenclature. The text is not a point of arrival, but rather a basis from which to start again, with the aim of understanding the function of the fascial continuum in the living. The history of fascial nomenclature in historical and modern contexts is reviewed, including the scientific perspective of the Foundation of Osteopathic Research and Clinical Endorsement Organization, or FORCE. The latter has no profit-making purposes and does not hold any copyright. Okay, so that's their abstract. So when I think about how I've looked at definitions of fascia, one of the first places that I was able to find any kind of definition was Gray's Anatomy. The text that a lot of us were required to have in school, definitely medical students were required to have Gray's Anatomy, and that might have been the only place that they read about fascia in their medical education. And Gray's Anatomy focuses in on fascia as a primary solid connective tissue. Its emphasis was really on dissectable anatomy and was largely viewed as structural and mechanical in the body. So now let's look at a definition that's been around and for several years and is widely accepted. It's on the Fascia Research Society website. It's also this definition is also used in Fascia, the Tensional Network of the Human Body, second edition, where Robert Schleip, Carlos Decco, Mark Driscoll, and Peter Huging are the editors of this book. And that particular book is that is my go-to book too. I have that book in hard copy and Kindle versions, so I can get to it whenever I want to. So highly recommend. Okay, so the definition that you can find if you just Google Fascia Research Society, you can go there and find this definition. And if you aren't a member, I am. I think it's wonderful. They do a lot of free webinars that are. The last one I attended last week was Carlos Decco. It's incredible. And I'll probably talk about that at some point in an upcoming podcast. So the definition is as follows. The fascial system consists of the three-dimensional continuum of soft, collagen-containing, loose and dense, fibrous connective tissues that permeate the body. It incorporates such elements as adipose tissue, adventia, neurovascular sheaths, aponeurosis, deep and superficial fascia, epineurium, joint capsules, ligaments, membranes, meninges, myofascial expansions, periostea, retinacula, septa, tendons, visceral fascia, and the intermuscular and intermuscular connective tissues, including the endo, peri, and epimysium. The fascial system surrounds, interweaves between, and interpenetrates all organs, muscles, bones, and nerve fibers, endowing the body with a functional structure and providing an environment that enables all body systems to operate in an integrative manner. End quote. So this focuses on fascia as an environment and not just simply a structure in the body. It pulls in many, many, many different tissues that go well beyond what Gray's Anatomy might describe. And it gets very far away from thinking of fascia as just a wrapping. The next definition that I came across that I really like is not one that you can find on the Fascia Research Society website, and I wouldn't even say it's, agreed upon widely, but I think it's extremely functional, and it's in an article by John Sharkey and Mark Flannigan. John Sharkey is a clinical anatomist, and Mark Flannigan I would describe him more as a clinician that focuses on movement. It's more looking at fascia as something that's more of a living adaptive system, and they focus more on, I think it's more inclusive and focuses on the functional aspects of fascia. So I'm going to read that to you as well. And again, this is an article that you can find on the website or on the internet. It's a 2023 article. Fascia constitutes a variety of morphologically specialized tissues from liquid to osseous, composed of a variety of collagen and elastin fibers embedded in a ground substance constituted by bound water, glycosaminoglycans, and other extracurricular matrix molecules on a spectrum of softness. So we're already reading something very different from the last one. A spectrum of softness to stiffness. Fascia is crucial in transmitting forces. So now we're talking more about function. Fascia is crucial in transmitting forces, maintaining posture, regulating fluid balance, and providing sensory feedback. Human fascia is a continuous and ubiquitous three-dimensional web of pre-tensioned, also something new, connective tissue permeating and supporting every cell, tissue, and organ of the body, providing structural integrity and tensional balance. Fascia is not a passive container, but a dynamic, complex tissue constantly remodeling in response to mechanical and biochemical stimuli, modulating muscle function, bone health, fluid dynamics, joint stability, posture pain, interoception, and proprioception. Moreover, fascia plays a crucial role in intercellular communication, emotions, immune defense, and inflammation regulation. So, liquid to osseous, interesting. They include ground substance, the bound water. They talk about the pre-tension aspect, that it's dynamic, that it's responsive. They've emphasize force transmission, sensory input, and regulation. And that fascia is not something that's passive, that holds us up. It's biologically active, it's responsive, it's constantly changing, and it's a communication part. It's very important in the communication of our entire body. So now we're going to get into the force definition. Remember, force is this foundation of osteopathic research and clinical endorsement. Okay, so what they're doing is they're looking at the fascial system from an embryological perspective. And I know I've touched on embryology at least once before in the podcast, and fully admitted this is an area that I do not know a lot about, but the more I read about it, the more fascinating it is to me, and I would love it if I would have the time to be able to really learn more about it. So it's commonly thought that the fascia primarily arrives from the mesoderm, but they're saying many fascial tissues also derive from the ectoderm. I'm going to read some pieces from the article for you. Okay. We're going to, here we go. Okay. So they're saying the FRC, or the Fascia Research Congress, and FEPAT, which is the Federative International Program for Anatomical Terminology, consider the fascia of the whole body as a solid component deriving from the mesoderm, and that's inaccurate. Remember, this is a quote from the article. The solid fascia does not arrive from the mesoderm alone, but also from the ectoderm. Connective tissue has dual phylogeny. Most of the solid fascia of the cranial area derives from the ectoderm, cartilage, fat, connective tissue, for muscle tissue, dermis, bone, and more. To give some examples, the meninges of the skull, or the dura mater, in the caudal midbrain and forebrain regions arises from the ectoderm, while the remaining dural area derives from the mesoderm. The skull muscles are penetrated and wrapped by connective tissue of the ectoderm origin, and the ectodermal connective tissue fuses with the mesodermal connective tissue at the level of the muscles of the anterior and posterior craniocervical tract. The parietal bone arises from the mesodermal later, while the maxillary bone is of ectodermal derivation. I apologize for that. The frontal bone is the fusion of the ectoderm and the mesoderm. So how interesting is that so many of the tissues in that area of the body come from different embryological origins? Okay, so what they are saying, I'm going to read part of their definition, and then I'm going to read the whole thing to you, because it's a lot. Okay, so the fascial continuum, this is again the definition that they provide in that article, which you can go read yourself. The fascial continuum is the result of the evolution of the perfect synergy among different tissues, liquids, and solids capable of supporting, dividing, penetrating, feeding, and connecting all the districts of the body. The continuum constantly transmits and receives mechanometabolic information that can influence and shape the function of the entire body. So they include epidermis, dermis, fat, blood, lymph, blood and lymphatic vessels, cerebrospinal fluid, and the tissues covering the nervous filaments, voluntary striated muscle fibers, and the tissue covering and permeating it, ligaments, tendons, aponeurosis, cartilage, bones, joint capsules, meninges, involuntary striated muscles and smooth muscle, visceral ligaments, epiloon, peritoneum, pleura, pericardium, Glisson's capsules, kidney capsules. That is a lot. And if you go to the article, they have a really nice figure that depicts the fascial tissue deriving from mesoderm and ectoderm that they're saying are all part of the fascial system, and it's all the things I just listed: the visceral ligaments, cartilage, bone, blood, lymph, cerebral spinal fluid, epidermis, adipose, the epimysium, paramysium, endomysium, lymph, blood, lymphatic vessels, the muscles, the meninges, the ligaments, tendons, aponeurosis. To me, that is very, very interesting. And why does this, again, matter to us? It matters to us because as clinicians, we need to be paying attention to what other disciplines are talking about, what the researchers are talking about, and why they're shifting or changing their thinking. And when I look at what they're talking about and why they're pulling in this embryological piece and how it derives and creates the structures in the body, I think it's pretty interesting because there's got to be more connection. It makes me think more about systems and how in our clinical world we specialize so much that we don't always think about how everything fits together. I think clinicians maybe, well, I don't know if we do. I was going to say maybe we do it better than medicine because medicine really parcels out specialty areas. But I guess we kind of do too. When I think about just OT in general, we do that too. Guilty. But as fascia therapists, as fascia-informed therapists, we have to be thinking more holistically, thinking more about how everything fits together because fascia is that environment. Fascia is what is connecting everything together. And when you start thinking more about how they're thinking about it, they're basically saying all of these parts, pieces that they're considering part of the fascial system can be influenced by things like mechanotransduction. And the last sentence in their definition, the continuum constantly transmits and receives mechanometabolic information that can influence and shape the function of the entire body. So when we start thinking of things like blood and lymph as part of the fascial system, that just makes us think more about all these things are influenced by the mechanical pressures that your body receives. And it's really hard for me to think of those sorts of things as part of the fascial system, but why wouldn't it? So it's definitely stretching my thinking, and I'm hoping that it's stretching yours. I don't have any really specific answers for you and I know clinicians love, what do I do with this? How is this going to affect my practice? I don't know that I have the answer to that, other than I really hope that if you're a fascia-informed therapist, that you're open to an evolution of our understanding. And I think when we know more, we can get more creative. We can get more creative with how we design interventions, with how we educate our clients. And of course, I always am thinking about, how would this affect my body? How would it affect what I do to keep myself healthy? And I hope you are thinking about the same thing, because you are as important as your clients are. Okay, I was hoping to make this kind of a short one, so I hope this gives you some food for thought. Again, I'll put the link to the article in the show notes or the description, and I hope you got something out of it. So thank you so much, and thanks for listening.